I'm Jordan.
And I'm Tyler.
And this is the Inside Music City podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Inside Music City,
where it's our job to talk to music industry professionals about the ins and outs of the music business.
This episode is brought to you by our wonderful patrons.
Yay! Thanks, guys.
You can learn more about becoming part of the Patreon family, as well as finding a lot of behind-the-scenes content by visiting www.patreon.com/Inside Music City.
Today's episode is with Dusty Draper. Dusty is an award-winning photographer. He currently does freelance photography for the Country Music Association, the Nashville Predators, Bridgestone Arena, and has been published in many books, newspapers, magazines, and on a lot of websites like Rolling Stone, Billboard, Ryman, CMA Close-Up, Nash Country, and the Grand Ole Opry. He has both an associate's and a bachelor's degree in commercial photography from Nossi College of Art, where he graduated with honors, and he also works at his alma mater as an admissions representative. We talk a lot about concert photography, and then we also dive into his victory over addiction. So I hope you guys enjoy. I know I learned a lot, and we had a lot of fun recording this episode. Dusty, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah. We're sitting here at the Nossi College of Art in Nashville, Tennessee. It looks pretty sweet over here. Like, this is the coolest college I've seen.
Yeah.
I could sign you guys all up right now.
Perfect.
We can get all that information included in the show notes. And
Sure.
All of our listeners, if you want to come to college to learn how to do anything art related, there you go. You got the plug.
Good spot. So let's start off by talking about how you started with photography and how you jumped into the concert scene. Let's just go from there.
All right. Well, I for 6 years I was a registered nurse, and my wife was also a nurse. And I got mixed up with prescription drugs and stuff like that. And so I had a drug addiction for quite a while. So in the midst of all that, I went through rehab, did all that stuff, and got clean. I mean, clean for 11 years, just passed. So
congratulations.
Thanks. And my wife, I was working in Enterprise Rent-A-Car in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was miserable. And my wife bought me a camera. She knew I loved to do photography. I've been doing it since I was a kid, just as a hobby. But she said, "Why don't you go to school to do this?" And she bought me a camera. So I started at Mesa Community College, took some classes there, film classes, learned how to develop film, do that kind of stuff. And then we moved out to Bowling Green, Kentucky, because my two children were out here with their mom from my previous marriage. So we wanted to be closer to them. And we have a 6-year-old son that missed him, and we all missed him. So we came closer, and then I had sent in some information to Nossi College of Art. When we came to visit one time, we saw a sign, and they said, "Well, if you're ever in the area, come and visit us." So they called me one day once we had already moved and said, "If you're ever near Nashville," I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I moved to Bowling Green," and they got really excited and said, "Come for a tour." So I came and toured and signed up that day. And when I started here, I had no intentions of ever being a concert photographer. I thought I would take the senior pictures or family pictures and stuff like that. So there's a insiders page for Facebook. It's called Nossi Insiders, and all the students and the faculty are on there. And one of the student services posts things on there like to volunteer for different shoots or different projects. And Live on the Green came up, and she asked for volunteers, and I told her I've never shot a concert. She's like, "Well, go ahead and start, you know." So I went down there, shot a show, fell in love with it, shot everything I could get my hands on after that, and then I put my portfolio in for this thing at Country Music Association called the Award of Merit Team, and they pick like 5 students throughout the country to shoot the Country Music Festival, Country Music Association, CMA Fest is what we call it. So I was one of the 5 they chose, and then you shoot the whole thing, which is 4 days, 16-hour days. And the second day, I might regret saying this, but the second day, the start of the second day, I was sitting in my car in tears because I was like, I'm exhausted and I got 3 more days of this. But I just plugged along and ended up, they pick one winner out of the 5, and they give you an award. And I got the award. So I've been shooting with them ever since then. Paid photographer now. I'm one of their photographers they call. I've done 4 CMA fests and 3 CMA awards, a Christmas show, a couple of other things for them, and through there I met this guy John Russell, and he's the Nashville Predators photographer. He has been for 20 years. This year it'll be 20 years, and met him. He also works for Vanderbilt, shoots a lot of their stuff, their sports. So he started asking me to shoot for him, and I shot some Vanderbilt football games. What else did I shoot with him? Oh, he also works for Bridgestone Arena, shooting concerts. So I shoot a lot of shows for him. And then just this past couple months, I was shooting the Stanley Cup playoffs and the finals, so that was really awesome. I'd never even been to a hockey game before. He's like, you want to come shoot it? And I was like, I've never even been to a game. So I went down, shot with him. It was a blast. Now I'm hooked on hockey. I love it. I've been to a lot of live events, sports and whatnot, but I've never seen anything like professional hockey. They're so fast and they're so amazing, graceful and fast and tough all at the same time. So.
Yeah, they make it look easy.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how. And my son plays roller hockey, and watching 16-year-old against that kind of stuff, it's different. So yeah, that's how I got started, and it's been pretty good blessing in my life. I've had so many doors open up. I don't even have to advertise anymore, because once you get a little bit of a name and reputation in Nashville. It's like you guys probably know, it's like a small town in a big city type of thing. And the negative to that is if you mess up, you're gonna ruin your reputation really fast. So I've tried not to do that. I tried to be pretty professional, and it's worked out so far. So
yeah. So at this point of your career, you're not reaching out to other people trying to ask them to come shoot for them. They're reaching out to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, sometimes if I really want to shoot a show, I'll go and talk. I've met some publicists and managers, so I'll reach out to them. If I told my wife told me, you can't do any more free stuff after I started getting a little more well known, and I said okay, and then I talked to her about a couple of shows. I said, just let me do one a year, just pro bono, and that's all I need. And then so I do that every once in a while, not more than once a year. But
that's cool. So you said there is a student page on the Nossi Facebook. Is that exclusive for students and faculty?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that just means you have to come to school
Yep.
here.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Do you know of other platforms or websites or groups that will post volunteer shooting opportunities for maybe those that are trying to make a name for themselves still?
Sometimes, like on you guys know Young Entertainment Professionals.
Yeah.
We see stuff on there every once in a while, but mostly that's portrait stuff. But pretty much, if you want to just get started, you can get into shows if you contact. I've done it before. You go on websites, look for the publicists, contact the publicists. They'll let you shoot for free most of the time. You know what I mean? And it's just the getting paid part of it is what is the hard part. When you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into shooting for free, because then everybody will think you do it for free all the time. So once my wife put her foot down and said, "You're not doing that anymore," I lost a couple of people that I was working with, but then I gained so much more from it. You don't worry about it anymore, about not getting those shows that are free, so.
Are you contacting the publicist for the artist specifically or for the venues? Or both?
There's 2 ways I would do it back then. Publicist straight up, I would just call them, just or email them. Email is a little bit easier to get a hold of them, and then you can go to the venue. Like I got to know a lot of the people at the venues because I did those free shows, and they liked my stuff. And one of the interesting things that happened to me one time was even after I got out of school, they give you like a semester before they kick you off the insiders page. So they were posting about this New Year's Eve show, and Moon Taxi was playing at War Memorial. And Moon Taxi is like one of the artists that I've worked with most, and that's the pro bono show I did this last year. So because it was at the Ryman and it was their first time, and I was like, I gotta shoot that. But anyway, excuse me. What happened was nobody was signing up for that show, and I'd shot it the year before. So I told Libby, the lady that runs student services, I said, you know, if nobody signs up for that, I'd like to shoot it, but I can't shoot it for free. So she went to them in War Memorial, and they asked the band, and they said, is that the guy that shot it last year? And they said, yeah. They said, yeah, pay him. We want him to shoot. So ever since then, like I did some album stuff for him in the studio over here, and we just got a relationship now where I've shot 3 New Year's Eve shows in a row for him, and then I shot at the Ryman and a couple other shows, you know. But then Live on the Green, I shot one of those shows, but they're really cool guys.
So are you mentioned you shoot for Moon Taxi, and that was one of your free things that you do. So you're a fan.
Yeah, I like them. I didn't even know who they were before I shot that show that I volunteered for, but they blew me away, you know. Like, and then the more I shot with them, the more I got in sync with what they were doing. I knew when certain things were going to happen. Like Trevor, their lead singer, he gets up on the drums and jumps off, and it got to where he would look at me and I would know what he was going to do. So I get in position, and like I got this one shot of him jumping off of a speaker, and he's like way up in the air, and I'm behind him. So the whole crowd's out there at the Ryman, and I'm shooting out, and it looks like he's like 12 feet in the air, and it's just amazing. And they do that so much, he jumped so much that when I shot him in the studio, I said, I'm going to put actually this couch right here. I said, I'm going to put this on the psych wall. It's just pure white. And I said, and have the guy sit on it, and you just jump over it. And I caught him up in there. I can't show these photos yet because they're going to use them, but I could tell you about them. You can imagine them. But
a mental picture.
Yeah, so I got, and they love that idea, and they love that shot. So it's just getting to know those guys, you know, like getting to know bands. You never know what would happen, you know. I mean, they could take off, and then they would say, hey, I'm not going on tour with them because I got a family, but, you know, I'd like to shoot stuff when they're in town.
Yeah. So would you say that you're normally a fan of the artists that you go to shoot?
No, not normally. Like every once in a blue moon. Like sometimes I am. I like. Sometimes I shoot stuff that I'm like, I'll never shoot that again, and I'm not going to tell you. Not just throw anybody under the bus because I want to work. But yeah, I. And then you got artists that you shoot so much that you're like, I can't get another picture of these people and it be usable. So. I'm not going to be like going for me. I do it for a job, and that's fine. But no, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of a whole lot of people. But when you get somebody that you are, it's just like Vince Gill. I shot him one time, and just during sound check, we were filming for the Daily and Vincent show. It was a TV show I was a set photographer for, and he came out to do a sound check and sang that song, Go Rest High on That Mountain. And you could have heard a pin drop. Everybody stopped what they're doing and just watched him. Even me, I was forgetting to take photos because it was like, I just always loved that song. And hopefully they'll play that song at my funeral. I don't want Vince to play it because hopefully he'll be dead way before I am, but because he's a lot older than me. But yeah, but I love that song. So it's just sometimes you just get caught in the moment, like Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton when they sang together at the CMA Awards. That place was that's the best by far. That's the best set I've ever shot, and not just so much for the photos, but it was so amazing because all the celebrities, all the artists were just singing along with the songs, and they were just going crazy, and the electricity was amazing. You just get chills when that stuff happens, and it's just, you're like, man, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. It's crazy. So yeah, not always a fan, but I become a fan sometimes. Like, you'll see, like, Moon Taxi or somebody else, you'll see somebody that you've never even heard of, and you're like, man, those guys are good. How come they're not famous? Or you'll see somebody that you thought you were a fan of, and they're just disappointing. You're like, wow, I wish I wouldn't have saw that. I liked their music until I saw that. Anyway.
How do you prepare for your shoots for different concerts, and what is a shot list?
Okay. Well, the way I prepare is if I haven't ever shot the artist before, I'll go online and I'll see what they have as far as videos or concert like videos, like regular videos that they produce, or concert videos that somebody shot, and just get a sense of what they're doing while I'm listening to their music, trying to get into it and because there's a certain vibe you want to get. You don't want to get in the place. You don't want to listen to a bunch of country music and then go shoot a heavy metal show or something. It just doesn't work. But I'll do that, and then I'll try to plan in my head what kind of shots I want to get. Like, a lot of times I'll be like looking through my old photographs, and I'll be like, I don't have one of somebody smashing a guitar or something, and I'm going to go shoot somebody that smashes guitars. So I'm like, okay, when do they get to the smashing the guitar or something? I mean, that's an extreme example, but I do look for tendencies, and I'll look for stuff they do almost every show, or I don't know. And I like to get a practice shoot before a big show, because there's sometimes that I don't shoot a show and there'll be months in between. I don't want to go in there cold like that. So I'll go and shoot at some little thing, or do something where I can get my camera, synced into where I know my settings should be. But I have baseline settings that I start off with, and then I'm constantly changing stuff. I didn't know how much until the first CMA awards I shot. I had a GoPro on my chest, because I was like, I don't know if I'll ever be back here. I want to record this. So you could see me like shoot and then go just like changing stuff really fast on my camera, and I'm like, I didn't know I was doing that so much. But it's just crazy how that muscle memory and all that stuff, you get so used to it that you do it without even recognizing it. And it's just like it's just changing your exposure, or just so you're not underexposed or overexposed. You have to keep checking it. Those lights change so much from set to set. So any other ways that you want to know how I prepare? Oh, a shot list, yeah. I don't really ever use one, but if you're with CMA, they'll ask you every once in a while to get certain things, especially at the award shows. They'll ask you, well, we need this and we need that, and they'll give you a shot list. But I've never really had one. I've had certain artists that are getting up there in age ask me not to shoot from a certain side, and I always thought it was weird, because I'm not going to take a bad picture of you. If I do, I'm not going to keep it, and I'm not going to pass it along. But certain artists are picky. They think they got double chins, or one side doesn't look as good as the other. So anyway, I try to respect all that stuff when they ask. Even if I do take one, not really remembering, or I'll just get rid of it. I don't want something out there that they don't want, because your name's attached to that stuff, So.
Are you at a pretty good percentage now of the amount of shots that you take, or what you use, or do you just take a ton of shots and then go back and edit?
I'm way down from what I used to be, for a couple of reasons. Because when I shoot for CMA, they take the stuff right out of camera. There's no editing whatsoever. So you have to have everything just perfect. And they don't want to go through thousands of pictures, because there's editors there that I'm friends with and stuff that, they communicate with me and say, hey, you're a little underexposed, you're a little overexposed, or something like that. And so it helps me a lot not to have to do that when they tell me. And, plus gear costs a lot of money, and there's only so long that you can there's only so many shutter counts that you can get on there, or shutter, I forgot what they call it, but there's a technical word. But anyway, there's only so many before you have to get a new shutter, a new camera, and I'm not rich, so I'm a little more selective. I used to shoot a little bit of film, so you couldn't just click away. It's too expensive. So I'm kind of used to that. When I first started with digital, I was like, oh, I love this. Can't do that. I mean, it's just, there's no reason to do it. Plus, I have thousands of images on my computer. I already need to get rid of because I have to keep buying them. I don't have time to get rid of all those photos, but I don't want any more on there. So,
what makes a good shot? Like, do you just intuitively know that, oh, something's about to happen?
Nah, sometimes. But when you take a shot I try to get at least one of these every show I shoot, or every event, or whatever. One that I go, wow, that's it right there. That's the one that I was wanting. Or there'll be a happy accident is what we call them, where you get one that you weren't expecting. But try to get one of those that is a really good shot, not just run of the mill stuff. Something that really you just feel it, And if you get more than one in you had a really good show. But what I consider really good, and most of the stuff I shoot's probably good enough for CMA to put on their websites or whatever. But every once in a while there'll be something that I'm like, okay, that's going on my website or on my wall or something.
This is a hypothetical situation. If you could communicate with an artist that you are taking pictures of while they were performing, what advice would you give them to make your job easier?
Get you out from behind the mic. I mean, I have to get rid of so many excuse me, I have to get rid of so many shots because the microphone's right in front of their face. I mean, it's just crazy. And just look at the camera more. Find out. There's a lot of people that already do that. They'll know exactly where the photographers are, and they'll go right up to you and do something. And it's really cool when they do that and just like I was saying before, Trevor from Moon Taxi, he knows, how to look, and I know what he's gonna do after he looks at me and it's like we communicate by, okay, I see what you're doing, but if I could tell him just, play up to the camera because this is what's gonna sell stuff, I mean, don't turn around and walk that way whenever the camera's this way, But,
yeah, this is what everyone's gonna see, not just the people that are at your show.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy how some people just don't ever come towards the camera or don't do anything, and it's just like, man, this is free stuff for you. The stuff that CMA takes, they put it all in this huge database, and the artist can come get it. So, I mean, and they don't cost them anything. So, I mean, I would be if I was an artist, I'd be all over that stuff. And there are some that do that, and they're the ones I love shooting. There's some that I'm like, oh, not this guy again, or not this girl again. I'm not going to get anything.
What does the process look like of booking you to shoot a concert?
Like somebody that wants to hire me to shoot?
Yeah.
What do they have to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of crazy because I'm trying to think of the last time I had to worry about somebody that doesn't know me. Usually I just get cold calls I have my websites to dustydraper.com, and they can go on there and email me, or my other information's on there, my phone number. And I get cold calls all the time. Like I just shot the Gold Cup, and I was like, how'd you guys get my name? And they said, well, Freddie gave us your name. Freddie also works for John Russell, Frederick Breeden, and he shoots Predators concerts. He shot CMA. I met him, and it's just like, okay, cool. And then they asked me, do you know anybody else? And I'm like, yeah, I know this person. So it's mostly word of mouth. And if they want to hire me, they probably know me from somebody else. and either that person that our mutual friend will call me and say, hey, so and so wants to talk to you, or they'll just give them my info and they'll email me usually or call me, and I'm like, who is this? You know, like, but I've had calls pop up on my phone from, you name it, Florida, Beverly Hills, New York, and I'm like, I don't know this person, and I almost didn't answer it, and then I answered, and I'm like, oh, it's a job, sweet. So, you know, I've got a lot of jobs that way, but mostly in this town, word of mouth. If I was to move back to Arizona and start all over, I have no idea how I would do this. I would start, like I told you, publicist, doing all that, and then I'd have to start from the ground up. But here, it's already, I mean, I just stumbled into it. Like, I mean, I say that, I mean, I did a lot of hard work, but my connections I got through the school here, and then it just kind of, I did this, like I told you, I did the PowerPoint, and that PowerPoint was all about my connections, and it just branched off into all these, I just, one step at a time, it was all these connections, and it was all intermingled, and it shows the kids at the high schools, okay, this is what happens if you network, and it just turns into this huge web of people. And so I don't really have to worry about how they're going to contact me if somebody knows. If you meet somebody and say, hey, do you know so-and-so? They hardly ever say no. They always say, yeah, I know him, and he did this. And I'm like, yeah. And then you'll run into the same photographers at the shows, and it's great.
So what are some of the challenges that go along with taking photos at a concert? Because I know concerts can be pretty hectic and all over the place. And what do you do to overcome these obstacles?
Well, almost every artist has like a release that you have to sign, and there's certain things you can and cannot do, how many songs they want you to shoot. Usually the standard's 3 songs, and then where you can stand, where you can be. Some of them let you be in a pit in front of the stage. Some of them are you're back at the soundboard, and you have to have, like when I'm back at the soundboard, I have to borrow or rent a 600 or a 2 to 400 or something. But my friend John Russell, when I shoot for him, he lets me use his 600, which is huge, and it feels like you're right there. But those are some of the obstacles. Just like if I didn't have somebody, that would cost me probably all my money that I'm going to rent something like that, because those are like $15,000 lenses, and if they rent them, even for a couple of days, you know, you're talking hundreds of dollars. So yeah, and the other obstacles are just rules of the places. Like some of them will escort you out, some of them are cool and let you watch the show, but just sometimes it's hard to get into places. It seems that no matter how many times these like the guys at the parking garage or something see you, it's like gosh. Like, who is that?
No idea.
Gosh. Like, yeah, sorry. It just seems like you guys good. It seems like no matter how many times these parking garage guys have seen you, you're never on the list, or you're always, they don't let you're in the wrong spot, and then you go to the other spot, and then they tell you to go back to the other spot. So that kind of just little stuff. That's first world problems, you know, getting free parking or whatever. But I don't know. Like, I don't really have that many obstacles, unless it's like some stupid like release that like you can't post the photos anywhere. Like I had an artist recently that I had to sign something like that. You can't post anything unless we get written permission. So I was like, I'm not going to use these anyway. But then there was one of those shots I was talking about that I really wanted to use. So I was like, all right, I'm going to find out who their publicist is. And I found out who their publicist was, and I knew him. I knew the publicist. So I was like, hey, I just want to use this. And I sent her a couple of them. And she's like, yeah, you got any more? And I sent, she's like, you can use this. She gave me this list. I really don't like this one. There's usually 1 or 2 that they don't want you to use, but she's like, yeah, go ahead. So it was cool. So, but usually, it's pretty cut and dry, you know, like everybody's professional. There's not a whole lot of obstacles. You know, my biggest fear used to be, now I'm up here all the time at work, but it used to be I would be on my way to a show or something, and like either my car would break down or there would be a wreck and I couldn't get through because I live in Bowling Green, you know, so driving up here, and I would always, yeah, man, I hope I never, because that would be one way to mess your reputation up. So I don't ever want to miss a show. So.
What are your settings? What are your baseline settings on your camera?
2.8 for my aperture. I usually start around, the lowest shutter speed I'll go is 250, and then depending on what the lighting setup is, I'll start off around 1200 to 1600 on my ISO, and that'll give you a pretty good start. And if it's a little darker than you expect, just bump your ISO up. But you want to have that aperture pretty much wide open, you know, and then your shutter speed, if the lighting's really good, I'll bump that up a little bit faster because you want to catch stuff that's happening. 250, you're going to have some blurring if they're just going nuts, you know, if it's somebody like moon taxi jumping or something, I'm going to try to speed up my shutter speed. You know, I don't want to miss something and make it out of focus or blurry or something because of my settings or whatever. But yeah, that's usually how I start, and it works out good. You know, I change it constantly, but usually not if it's like CMA Fest or something because their lighting's so good that you go on one of these little clubs, it's almost impossible. You're going to definitely have some grainy photos no matter how nice your camera is. So anyway, yeah.
For those of us like me who know very little about photography, what does aperture mean and ISO, and what does shutter speed affect?
Aperture is the opening. How the smaller the number, the bigger the opening on your lens. So it'll open
more light.
Yeah, that's in more light. And then shutter speed is just how fast the shutter moves back and forth. And the faster it is, the more you're going to stop the action. Like if you're shooting sports, you're going to want to have it like 1,000. When I was shooting the hockey games, you wouldn't want to go below 1,000 because you want to catch the puck flying or, you know, teeth flying, whatever. So yeah, and then the ISO is the sensitivity the sensor has to the light. The higher the number, the more sensitive. Like if you're in a low light situation, you're going to want to bump up the ISO to let in, you know, the more light sensitivity. But then you have to worry about, if your sensor's not that great, you have to worry about grain and noise is what they call it. So when you ever see a photo that has these little things in the back, you know,
like static.
Yeah, like static. If you visualize static like that, well, static on a TV set or something. But mostly it comes out in the shadows and stuff like that. So that, and if you get it on a shadow on somebody's face and you got noise, that's not good. And so, I mean, you don't want, there's ways to get rid of it. It's better to get rid of it in camera and not have to worry about it. But sometimes you have to, like I said, low light clubs or venues. It's not a whole lot of light going on in there. So
you said the higher the ISO, the more sensitive it is?
Well, the more like, I don't know if sensitive is the right word. So if you have a higher ISO, the more likely you're going to have noise and stuff like that. But it lets in more light. So
you need a high ISO when you have a super fast shutter speed.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. It depends. Okay, let's say if you want a faster shutter speed and there's not a whole lot of light, and if you do a fast shutter speed, it's going to let in less light because it's going faster. So you're going to want to bump up your ISO to allow yourself to use a faster shutter speed. And so, yeah, I mean, roundabout way, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So other than the settings that you use and constantly changing them, do you normally, like when you go to a show, just bring one camera, like a base camera? Do you bring multiple?
Yeah, I have at least two, and sometimes I have, no, I only have two cameras. Sometimes I'll have 3 lenses, but most of the time I'll have a 70 to 200 on one camera, and then I'll have a 24 to 70. That's what the lenses are called. And I'll have that on the other camera. And then if I need like the 600, I'll switch one of those out. Usually it's the one with the 24 to 70 because you're not going to want that when you're that far away from the stage and stuff. So, yeah. So and I'll tell you, whenever you have to change lenses out like that during a show, it's not fun because sometimes it's raining. Sometimes people are throwing beers or something up at the stage, and you don't want nothing to get inside your camera, so you just got to be real careful. I usually don't like changing my stuff once I'm out there. So.
What kind of cameras do you use?
I have a 5D Mark III is my main camera. I have a backup camera that's a 6D, and when I'm shooting for the Preds, I'll use a 1DX because those are pretty amazing. After shooting with that, I just don't even want to shoot with anything else. I mean, they're so, like, the bursts and everything are so great. And then when they have focus trackings for when something's coming towards you, just focuses so fast, and like hockey players, you know. So yeah, it's just amazing. But yeah, that's what I got. I shot a long time on a 7D, which was a crop sensor, which means like if you shoot a full sensor, your photo is going to be like this. Crop sensor is going to be not going to translate well on radio, but you know what I'm saying. Like you just get more of a picture with the full frame camera. Crop sensor is one advantage to that is if you put a long lens on, you get a little more length with the crop sensor. I'm not a physicist or anything or understand all that, but why it does that, but it does. So,
so let's assume someone wants to start shooting concerts, right? And they want to upgrade from a cell phone to an actual camera. Mm-hmm. What is a good entry level yet professional, get the job done camera for them to use?
Well, like I said, I started shooting with a Canon 7D, which worked just fine with me. And the good thing about those kind of cameras is you can get them pretty cheap, used and stuff. And if you want to go to like somewhere like B&H Photo, they have a used department. And I've actually sold them my old cameras, and they have this criteria that they check everything. So, and then they'll put on there what condition it's in, from like 10 down to whatever. They won't accept them beyond a certain level, but you can go on there on their used department. You can get really good deals on there, and their customer service is amazing. There's no taxes. They're out of New York City, you know. So yeah, and I would, if I was going to do it again, start over, I would definitely get something used and start from there. And then I would even rent some stuff to see what I liked, because it's not very expensive to go rent some of the older cameras or some of the lower level cameras, you know, not lower, I should say, like medium range, you know, like 7Ds, I would put in that range. 6Ds are probably in there. 5D Mark IIIs, usually all the pros have at least one of those. And then if you're working for the Preds for 20 years, you're going to have like 1DXs or something like that. So, yeah.
Cool. And then what lenses? So let's say that I just get the one camera, but you have different lenses to switch out.
Mm-hmm. If you just can afford one lens, or you want more than one?
Should I be able to afford more than one, to use more than one?
Probably, yeah, you should be able to eventually. But the way I had to start out, because I couldn't afford each lens. The lens, I think, is one of the most important aspects. The camera's, important, but the lenses, you're going to go through a lot of cameras, and the lenses should last you for a really long time. So I had to start out. I was either buy the 70 to 200 or buy the 24 to 70, because they're both like $2,000. So it's like one or the other. So I chose the 24 to 70 because I was still in school shooting portraits, stuff like that I wanted a little bit less, of a lens. So, and I loved it. That's like my favorite lens. But then I had to save up, and shoot a bunch of weddings to get another lens, and I did that, and got the 70 to 200. But pretty much if you have that, unless you're looking to do something wide angle, like landscape photography or something like that, where you'll need like a wide angle, those two will probably get you through pretty much anything you need. And like I said, if I could do it again, I would go and get used stuff. But I just had to have my lens. I dropped my lens at my 70 to 200 at a I didn't drop it. I'll tell you the story. I was at a Slipknot concert, and if my strap broke, and my lens hit the ground, and I didn't think anything was wrong with it. And I contacted the company and said, hey, the strap broke. I need another strap. So they sent it to me, and I was shooting the Preds, and John was going through the photos, and he said, hey, did anything happen? No, he said, your focus is a little off on the left-hand side of your frame. And I was like, well, is that something I did, or is there something wrong with my lens? And he's like, no, something's wrong with your lens. Did you drop it or anything? And I said, well, like a year ago, it fell off at a Slipknot concert. And he's like, well, you need to send it in. I sent it in to Canon, $900 they wanted. So I contacted the strap company. I said, hey, I know I told you nothing was wrong with my stuff, but I haven't dropped it at all since then. And they said, well, let us contact Canon, and they sent me a check for $900. So it's like, wow, nice. So yeah, they fixed it and it worked fine, but I had to drop a lot of names probably. I dropped CMA and Bridgestone and the Preds, and they were like, oh, well, we better get him fix his lens. Tell everybody. But they made me sign some stuff. You can't post nothing about this, that our strap broke. I guess they figured everybody would be coming to them for money or whatever.
Right. Well, you could say, be like, they have a really good
that's what
warranty on these straps if anything were to happen. These straps have good.
I mean, I could be great marketing for them, but they didn't want me to.
Illegal.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing that you can rent lenses as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if someone goes and buys a camera and they don't have the money to buy both lenses, they can pick up one or rent both.
Yep.
For their
sure
shots.
Can. And there's a place in Brentwood. It's a lens rental, and they're really good. Like pretty cheap too. I mean, if you don't get something outrageous, it's usually, it's way less than $100. And if for a week you could probably get a really nice lens for like $70 for a week. If you do it for a week, it's a little bit cheaper than doing it for a day or two. So,
And what's that place called?
Lensrentals.com.
In Brentwood.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place.
When was the moment where what was your aha moment? Like, I can do this, and I can do this for a living. With photography.
Oh, with photography?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was in at Mesa Community College, I entered a photo with my brother sitting in this old truck that he was going to restore eventually, I think. But he was sitting in there, and I took a picture of it and entered into a contest, a photo thing at the school, and I won Best of Show. And I was like, well, okay, I'm kind of good. And then when I got out here and started going to school, I always told my wife, one of these days I'm going to make enough money where you can stay home, because she's a nurse and she gets burned out sometimes. So, I don't think I really believed that for a long time. But once I started getting my connections here through the school and got paid for the first time, and I was like, well, this feels good to get paid actually. So I think, I don't know. I got an associate's degree from here the first time, and then because they didn't have a bachelor's degree program for photography, and then I came back. But before I came back, I was applying for jobs at like Amazon and stuff like that, because I didn't think there was a whole lot of money in music. I thought everybody was just wanting free stuff. So anyway, I applied for Amazon, and they said because I had an associate's degree that I could be a photographer assistant, but not a photographer for them. And I was bummed out. I was like, I don't know so much about this. I just got out of school. But then they got a bachelor's degree program, and then I took a semester off, in between that. And then I came back, and I started getting more into I got a gig with, I mentioned it before, with Daly and Vincent. They're a bluegrass band. They had a show on RFD TV. It's like, I had pretty cool guests on there. It's just, they told jokes and then they played songs. It was pretty cool. But I started, meeting people through that also, and I was getting paid to do that. So I was like, well, maybe this will take off, maybe I can keep getting gigs like this. So, but I don't think that I really thought that I would make a career out of it until CMA started paying me. Like the first year I did it as a student, but after that it was all paid, and then I was like, okay, I could do this, and then little things started trickling in here and there, and then I got hooked up with a wedding photographer, and then I was making pretty good money with them. It was a company out of Owensboro, and then John Russell introduced me to his boss at Vanderbilt. His name's Daniel Dubois, and he runs the photography department of Vanderbilt. And he also has his own photography company, and he wanted me to help him shoot with that. So we were shooting like conventions over at Opryland Hotel and big money stuff, you know. Like I wasn't seeing a lot, but you could tell they were renting out the Wild Horse Saloon on a Saturday night, you know, and having private concerts, throwing money all over the place. So, you know, I was getting those gigs, and then it just seemed like stuff was coming from everywhere. And but it's the thing about it is there's hot months and then there's cold months, you know. And I'm so busy in like June, July and stuff, but then January, February, I'm eating rice and beans or something, you know. So, but it's not quite that bad. But there's peaks and valleys, just like anything you're doing freelance. But you know, when you get a job like, you know, I also work here at the college as a recruiter and an admissions rep. So I can do that during the day, and they're so cool here that if I have something going on, like the Nashville Predators had a community day a few weeks ago, and I went to my boss and I said, hey, you know, can I go a little early to go? He's like, yeah, I consider that part of your job. And I'm like, sweet. So, you know, you go do that job while you're doing this job. So they're real cool because they can use all that stuff as promotion for the school, and it works out for both of us. I'm getting, you know, jobs out in there, and I'm helping them with their marketing. So
That's great.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the original question was.
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah.
We like it.
Stories are great.
We did not send you these questions
That's all
on
right.
purpose. Oh, this one's not a lightning round question, but a good question
right.
in general. What is some common but terrible advice that you hear that you want to correct?
Like as far as concert photography or
Yes.
anything.
Concert photography, and then if you want to expand, you can expand on that.
That advice. Well, I'm not sure if it falls in the category of advice, but it seems like when people start shooting shows, they want to be like right up front, as close as they can get, right in the action, and it's like you're shooting up in their nose, or you're getting the same shot. I'm not even kidding. One time I went in the pit. I wanted to get a certain shot. I went in the pit at CMA Fest, and there was 5 photographers lined up just like this, 5 in a row, shooting exactly the same thing. And I'm like, I'm out of here. So I went back, and I'm back there in the crowd, and here comes Keith Urban running out in the crowd, and I'm like, so thankful that those guys were like so cliche lined up right there. And he's running by, gave a guitar to a fan, and I got all those shots, and I'm like, I was in the right place at the right time. So yeah, just thinking that you have to be right there. It's just like, you try to tell people, you know, hey, you don't need to go do some variety stuff because everybody's got that shot. But
So you don't have to be front center.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, not, you know, everybody's seen those pictures before. Try to get something original, you know.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you?
11.
11.
Yeah, ask my wife and kids. I swear my kids tell me I'm weird like almost every day. I have a 20-year-old girl. He'll be 18 on Saturday, and I have a 6-year-old boy. Every one of them tells me I'm weird. I am weird. I mean, I love it though. Like, and they like it too because, you know, they're just as weird as me. So.
Yeah. 11 out of 10. Perfect
Yeah.
score. What is your plan in the event of a zombie apocalypse?
Oh man, I'm gonna run to my mother-in-law's house because she's got everything. She's got food storage, weapons, and you know, like they got like 4-wheelers and stuff. But it's gonna be a long run because it's all the way in Arizona. So,
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I'm gonna get to somebody's house like that because I'm trying to get that stuff together.
Yeah.
But I'm busy. So.
Cool. So what is something that you are just not good at? Like,
Oh gosh. There's a lot of stuff I'm not good at. I'm trying to narrow it down. Every time I give somebody a tour here at this college, I tell them the reason I'm a photographer because I do not know how to draw or paint. One time I painted my wife a picture for Mother's Day, and I swear I think she thought my 3-year-old. She's like, man, that is terrible. She didn't tell me right at the moment, but later on I was like, you remember that picture? She's like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. So I'm bad at that stuff.
drawing and painting.
Oh yeah, and I tried to do it. I could draw little cartoon characters every now and again, but if you're gonna get something realistic looking, no, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
But I can point you to a lot of people that are.
What is something that you know is true, but most people don't agree with you on?
Oh gosh, that I know is true that most people don't agree with me on.
Or that a lot of people don't agree with?
Well, I'm LDS, so a lot of people don't believe what I believe. I went through a phase in my life to where I got away from the church. Like I was telling you, I was addicted to drugs. I pretty much did everything I could. And if you think everything I did to try to be happy, and nothing. I heard a wise man once said, "You can't sin enough to be happy," and that's true. I tried everything, and until I came back to church and lived the way I live now and got my life in harmony, and I believe all that stuff. I believe, and a lot of people don't believe that the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are Christians. I mean, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day, but Christ is like the very center of everything, and I've been trying. I get up 5 o'clock every morning to study and to listen to talks or study the scriptures or whatever. And no matter if I get home at 1 in the morning from a show, I'm up at 5. It's just I knew that's what I needed to do, and it's just helped me so much in my beliefs, in my testimony, and I've learned so much. And it's funny how you see all the trickle down in your life. Trickle down to your kids, trickle down to your wife, trickle down to your family, other family members. I send out a email every week of stuff I've learned to certain people, inactive, active in our church, or just friends that have never been in the church. And it's always positive when they write back to me, and I just want to share that with people. I used to be afraid to do that stuff. I'm older now. I don't care about fear,
I don't care what people think about
Nah,
you.
I mean, they already think stuff. So yeah. Might as well do what I want to do. So yeah, I don't know if you guys wanted to get into all that.
That's great.
All right.
So there are going to be a lot of people that are struggling with either addictions or whatever people are struggling with. What was the turning point for you?
When I hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
When I was sitting in the back of a police car. Yeah, it was not a good feeling. But the funny thing about that is, I say it wasn't a good feeling, but when I got in that police car, when I was put in that police car, I should say, I felt something that I hadn't felt in a long time. Like, it's okay, now all that's over, it's time to get back to work. So from that point on, that was the point where I decided I'm not doing this anymore. And I had help from my dad. He was the main help in my life, along with my stepmom. And my wife, her name's Tiffany, and we worked together when I was an addict. She was going to nursing school, and I was a nurse. And we worked at the same place. And she knew me then. Then she ran into me about 3 years later and saw me again, and she saw something different. And she was like, hey, I want to get to know this guy because that's not the guy I knew. So we started dating, and like 40 days later, we were married. And now we've been married like 8 years. So, yeah. Just once you have to, everybody has their rock bottom. Everybody has sometimes it's a family member dying, or sometimes they almost die, or sometimes they see so much heartache that they've caused. There has to be some kind of, I think, in my opinion, there has to be some kind of spectacular I don't know, spectacular, tragic event happen in their life to make them want to get change. I just watched, I listened to a talk recently. Um, I'm trying to remember who it was, but I remember the quote. He said, somebody was talking about Nelson Mandela, and he was in prison for 27 years. And they said he had a lot of teachers in his life, but the greatest teacher he ever had was prison, because he had to find out about himself. And once you start finding out about yourself and knowing what you have to fix and getting to the point where you're willing to do that stuff, I mean, that's when all the miracles start happening. I went to the LDS addiction recovery meetings. I was already sober for like 2.5, 3 years, or clean, before I started going to them. But those are some of the most spiritual and most inspirational meetings that I've ever been to. I mean, that includes going to the temple, going to church, anything. And it's just because people are so real there, telling you how they did this and they did that and how it affected their lives. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just, you have to have something though if you're just, I mean, you're just going to keep doing the same results happen if you keep doing the same thing, and you just got to change something. And my change had to come because I was pretty much trying to kill myself. You know, I'd been through a divorce. My kids were living on the other side of the country. I didn't have anybody, you know, like I pretty much isolated myself from everybody, and I had to hit that. I mean, people were trying to help me all the time, and I just didn't want it. And then I had to finally figure it out that I did want it. And then it was like, okay, what do I do? But then, you know, you got to start with the basics. You got to start with changing habits, start prayer, mending relationships with family. My dad was always there for me. I used to steal money from him, do all kinds of crazy stuff. But he was there, and, you know, he's still there. He's still one of my biggest supporters. But yeah, I feel for the people that still struggle with stuff, even though they've been sober for 10, 15, 20 years. I don't have a craving for drugs anymore, but I think it's because I replaced it with other stuff. And, you know, the atonement of Christ is real, and that there's an enabling power, not only healing you from your sins, but it enables you to go from bad to good to better. And that's what I've been struggling with, you know, the bad to good is easy, going from good to better, and you know, getting to the point you want to be at. That's the hard part, because, you know, we tend to get down on ourselves and beat ourselves up and think that well, we messed up, so what's the point of trying? I've had somebody close to me that said that recently, like, I messed up, why did I even try? And I'm like, because that stuff's already taken care of. You just gotta, you know, try to get better. You know, like, you know, Christ took care of all that stuff. We just got to try to do the best we can. So I don't know. It's just, my wife and my youngest son are in Arizona right now, and my son's been gone for like 6 weeks, and my wife's been gone for a week. And sitting around the house, it's like, this was my life for a while, except I was a drug addict. I mean, I hate being by myself. It's just like, you get those bonds with your people, and once they're gone, it's just like, man, no wonder I was so lonely right now. But then you try to do something productive and immerse yourself in something that's going to make you feel good. And my thing right now is downloading talks from BYU and stuff like that, and listen to them. And there's some great stuff out there. You know, I mean, some of the people that talk about that stuff, some of the things that happened to them. It's like, okay, I'm not the only one that stuff happened to, you know. So anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that. But.
Throughout life, and just what you've learned, if there was one thing, well, I'm going to ask it differently. What's one thing that you want to teach your kids?
Well, I want to teach them how to, there's only so long you can go off the knowledge or the testimony or something of your parents or of other people. And I want to teach them to gain their own testimony and gain their own beliefs and understanding. I was born into the church, and I felt like I took it for, excuse me, I took it for granted for a long time. So whenever I had a little bit of opposition, I kind of just got away from it. My daughter's pretty strong as far as her testimony, and she's got it through going to the Lord and praying. My son, my ex-wife asked him one day, my oldest son, asked him, do you know how to pray and get answers? And he didn't know how. And I was like, he's almost 18 years old. I didn't know how to at 18 either, but I just assumed, I guess, because of his sister knew. But yeah, I tried, after that, I tried to, talk to him about it and tell him, I don't care what you do in your life. I don't care if you go on a mission. I said, I do care, but you're not going to disappoint me if you decide that's not for you. One thing I do want you to do is have a relationship with your Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, and I want you to stay strong, going to church, doing stuff like that. Don't feel like just because you might not make the same choices that other people make that you're not as good as them. So I just want to teach them, to stand on their own beliefs and not just say, well, my dad wanted me to do this, so I want to do it. I want them to, have a strong belief system and have a reason they're doing it, not just because they want to make somebody else happy. And, I always feel like my youngest boy, he teaches me more than I could ever teach him. I mean, he's so, I don't know how to say it, but he's so he asks the questions that I never thought a 6-year-old would ask me. Does Heavenly Father have a father? Stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Let me find out. And you go to research and stuff, and start trying to, give him a proper answer. But while he was out in Arizona, before my wife went out there, we were talking, and she was like, you're going to have to eventually tell him things you went through. And it's getting close to the time where you need to talk to him, or he's going to hear from somebody else, and he's going to feel like you're keeping things from him. So the whole time that they've been gone, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to plan this. Like, how is this? Because I'm his hero right now. I'm the guy, I'm the guy that can't do no wrong. But when he finds that stuff out, I don't know how he's going to react. So it's just scary. But I think that if they see those things that I went through and how the atonement was applied to that, I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have the atonement, the Christ's atonement to apply to my life. And if they could see I could come from that, then the little things that they might have struggled with that aren't so serious, they might know that, hey, we can do that too, So it's scary sometimes, even when you're a dad and you have to do that stuff. But, I don't want to keep things from him. I want that trust to be there. And I want him to be able to, I just thought of a funny story. I just want to smile. My son was out there before my wife got there, and he was at my dad's house. And they live in a little town, and we've always tried to teach. Charlie's my son's name, and we always tried to teach Charlie if anything happens, what to do, and if there's an emergency, call 911 or whatever. So my dad was baked a pie for somebody close in the town. And Charlie was watching cartoons, and my dad said, do you want to go with me, or do you want to stay here and watch cartoons? He's like, I'll stay here. Well, my dad comes back, and the police are at the house. And they said, where you been? And he's like, what? And he's like, what's going on? And he said, well, somebody called 911 from this. And my son did, because he was scared. He'd never been in that. We'd never left him alone before. Mm-hmm. And my dad didn't really think about it, because all his other grandchildren are kind of older, a little bit older, and he could leave them there. But it was crazy. They were taking down and my wife's like, I can't get there soon enough. That happened the day before she was going out there. No. And so she was just so I got to get out there. It's driving me crazy. I'm going to have an ulcer. Mm-hmm. And me, it's my third child. It's her first child. It was my third. So I'm like, whatever.
You're used to it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you juggle knives, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know where that story came from, but that happened. It was funny.
It's great. So, who or what comes to mind when you think of the word successful?
Oh man, that's well, I guess it depends on what type of success we're talking about. Professional success, I would look at, like, I try to model myself after, like, my friend John Russell, because he seems to do everything and he seems to just have it all together. I mean, he's he's working for the Preds for so long. He works for Vanderbilt. He shoots for CMA. He shoots for Bridgestone. Plus, he's got 2 dogs, a wife, a child. He does all that stuff. So he's a pretty good role model for me. But as far as, like, I feel pretty successful. I mean, not in a braggadocious way or anything like that. It's just like I used to not be where I'm at right now, and I just feel like every day is just icing on the cake for me. I mean, I got 3 wonderful kids. I got amazing, beautiful wife. I'm a member of a church that I love, and my belief system's solid. My career's, where I want it to be. And my wife's wanted to quit for a while. She's quit her job before she left, and because we're at a point where I can make enough money to support my family. I'm not rich by any means, but I don't want to be. I want to be to where I can provide for my family. So in my eyes, I'm successful. I mean, there's goals I have that I want to reach. One of our goals is we're getting out of debt right now. We just paid off one vehicle. We're getting ready to pay off the other one when I get my CMA check. So come on, CMA. So, but after that, we'll be in good shape. My wife's going to work PRN, but it's like a couple days a month, So, yeah. And like I said, I didn't think I would be at this point, especially not this fast. But I say fast, I'm 45 years old. But to me, I've only been going to school since 2012 and taking this stuff serious. So it kind of went rocket speed for me, So.
What's next?
What's next?
What's next? I don't know. I mean, we've talked about moving back to Arizona, but that would be a total start over. But the Lord works in mysterious ways. We truly believe in, like, prayer and fasting. That's how I got this job at the school. I was doing a fast and just got inspiration who to contact, because I was looking for a job more steady to get us out of debt. So I don't know what's next. I wouldn't turn down, like, a job with a hockey team or something like that, but I'm going to keep working here for a while and trying to recruit as many people as I can, and I shouldn't say as many as I can, the right ones. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I talked to my wife today. I said, I know you're the happiest in Arizona, so maybe we should set our goal at that. And she's like, I'm happy in Kentucky. I don't need to. She's like, I just wanted to quit my job, and I already did that, so I'm good. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm not in any hurry. I'm pretty happy where we're at. We live out in the country. We can't even get internet where we're at because we're so far out. We got cows walking around behind our house, and I can go out there and tinker around in my garage and do that kind of stuff, and then come to work and go home and do it again. So I'm pretty happy. So I'm not. I have goals, but I'm not looking to change anything major right now. Keep on trucking, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's shift to concert memories.
All right.
Tell us a couple of your favorite stories of shooting concerts.
Well, I told you the one about Vince Gill. That was one of my favorites, but I was pretty happy to shoot Jimmy Eat World because I listened to them for a long time. They were from Mesa, and that's where I was born, and that's where we lived before I came. And I knew people that, opened up for them, friends of mine that were in little bands, and did house parties with them and stuff. But that was pretty fun. It was a little venue, so it was pretty cool. Most of my memories come backstage. Like, you meet people, And the fun ones are the ones you meet before they get famous. Like a few years back, I met Sam Hunt backstage and talked to him and told him that my son loved that House Party song, and my son was like 3 at the time. And he's like, yeah, that's weird because everybody always tells me their kids like that song, and if you listen to the words, it's not really a kid song. And I was like, well, he loves it. So and he's like, that's really cool. But then, I met him again a few times later, and he's just the same guy after he blew up and everything. He's always real humble, and he talks to you a lot. And one of the funniest memories I have is after that show with Vince Gill, he was walking up the hall backstage, and I was walking towards him, and he said something, and I called him Vil. I just mixed up Vince and Gill, and I called him Vil, and I was really embarrassed. But then I was backstage at, I told my wife that story, and she just like cracked up. She's like, you're such a dork. But I was backstage at the Opry, and he was playing, and I was packing up my stuff, and I was hoping, oh man, I hope this guy don't recognize me because I was there. But he's like, hey buddy, I'll see you later. He's like, told me bye. So I was like, yeah, that's cool, because I've always liked him. He's really cool. And we got a picture of him. John shot it, I think, the hockey game. And he's right up against the glass, beating on the glass. That dude's everywhere, man. I've shot golf tournaments and concerts and hockey games, and that guy is just at everything. So he's like Mr. Nashville.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but
That's cool.
And then there's been moments to where I'm at concerts and I talk to people. I just try to talk to everybody. Mm-hmm. And I talked to this elderly couple one time at CMA Awards. They were sitting like right where I was resting. It was like a commercial break, and I said, hey, you guys come here every year? And they're like, no, it's our first year. Our granddaughter's performing. And I'm like, well, who's your granddaughter? And they said, well, Casey Musgraves. And I'm like, well, you want me to take a picture of you? And they're like, yeah. And it was cool because they were like all excited to get their picture taken, and they were all excited for their granddaughter. And those are the kind of moments I like, the real stuff. I mean, you can all day long, you can shoot the people on the stage, and that's cool, but you talk to the people backstage or during breaks, that's the real stuff. That's the stuff I like. And my grandpa was a janitor at a high school, and he did odd jobs like pick cotton and did other stuff. And so I just learned respect for people of all different, mostly the humble, meek people. So those are the ones I like talking to and like, getting their story. The famous people are cool, but the other people are cooler, I think, the behind the scenes, the guy checking your ticket or security guards or, one funny story, man, this is bad, but I can't even remember the artist I was shooting. He was an R&B artist. I don't remember his name. Maxwell, maybe? You guys heard of that guy? All right. Well, edit that out because we never even heard of it. Yeah. But anyway, there's a security guard, and I'm short, so when everybody's standing up, I can't see over them. And I usually bring a little ladder, but this time I didn't have it. So I got up on this chair, and the security guard was like, hey man, get off my chair. That's where I sit. An old African-American guy. And I was like, okay. And he kind of got like a little hostile for a minute. And I was like, man, you're acting like went in your house and stood on your furniture. As soon as I said that, he just started cracking up laughing, and he gave me a hug. And it was just like, because I just kind of said it in a funny way, because I didn't want to make him mad. Right. But anyway, yeah, we were buddies after that. Now I see him everywhere again, like I do with other people. And, it's pretty cool, you get to know some of the guys that do that kind of stuff. You want to know the security guards, because even if the band says, hey, we don't want you to do this or do that, sometimes they'll be like, go ahead, go on up there, go back there. All right, thanks, man. So those are the good guys to know. So
that's really cool. Thank you so much
for
taking the time and
yeah, it was fun.
Hey, just a few more things before you take off. First of all, you can find links to everything we discussed in the show notes.
This episode was brought to you by our wonderful patrons. If you want to learn more about becoming part of the Patreon family and how you can unlock behind-the-scenes content, you can find us at patreon.com/Inside Music City.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can go to our Facebook page and let us know. You can comment on posts, pictures, videos, anything really. Our Facebook is Inside Music City. Be sure to give us a like.
And finally, please, please, please forward this episode to someone you feel like would enjoy listening to or learning from our conversation today.
And again, thank you so much everyone for listening. You're awesome.